Hi, here we are again, two English teachers with one quote, and we're looking today at a simile from Stave 5, really famous quotation. It's really useful to pair the similes that we used at the start in Stave 1 to describe Scrooge right at the start of the novella with the similes that he uses to describe himself in Stave 5. They are important that it's him describing himself, it's how he now perceives himself. And this one is as light as a feather.
Okay, so the adjective light, we've got the suggestion that a weight has been lifted from Scrooge. Now he's seen the mistakes he's been making in his life, and he's lost that kind of burden of sin that was on him. There's also a subtle Manichaean imagery, so the use of light as a metaphor for positivity, and this shows us that he's seen the light. Now that might be in relation to religion or just in relation to how he's living his life. And we find that Dickens often makes the characters that we really like, the ones that kind of represent the best way of living, they're often associated with light. So Fred, when he's first introduced, is all in a glow, and his eyes are sparkling. And Fezziwig's got this sort of strange quote about a positive light appearing to issue from his calves. And they obviously contrast quite heavily with Scrooge in Stave 1, who says that darkness is cheap, and he liked it.
Good, and then there's the other meaning of the adjective light. I can't believe I just said good, just to praise you.
Thank you.
In Stave 1, he was compared with Marley, to show they shared the same fate. And Marley said that that Scrooge had his own chains as long as his, and that actually been added to them in the time since Marley had died. So the lightness reminds us that these chains have been cast off because he's asked for redemption. That's the basic Christian ideal, that you will be punished by your sins unless you ask for redemption, apologise and put things right.
Okay, so the noun feather. If you ask your nan, she'll tell you that feathers link to heaven. And we think, oh, if we see a feather, that's heaven communicating with us. So this might just be a consolidation that heaven has seen the Scrooge the change that Scrooge has undergone, and agrees with it. You know, it's a positive thing. It's kind of consolidating that he's made the correct choice. Also, when birds shed their feathers, they get a whole new plumage. I'm quite into the word plumage, and it's like they've changed. Like they've got a whole new sort of set of feathers, like a new bird. And we've got that a little bit with Scrooge in this final stave, because he gets a second chance. He refers to himself as quite a baby, as an indication that he's got a fresh plumage. He's a new person now, like a born again Christian, I guess. But that he's got a second chance at life and to kind of live the way he's supposed to live, the way he should have been living all along. Okay, so as light as a feather could also link to the weighing of souls in medieval Christianity. So this one's a heart. Sometimes it's referred to as a heart, but usually it's a soul. And this was a belief that in order to get into heaven, you would go to some sort of limbo place, and an angel would weigh your soul against a feather. And in order to get into heaven, your soul had to be lighter than a feather. I think that's interesting because it puts us at a sort of pivotal moment with Scrooge. This isn't that he has redeemed himself. All he's really done by Stave 5 is see the error of his ways and plan to make it right, and plan to change his life. But at this moment, he hasn't yet made that change. So I think the fact that he's as light as a feather tells us that he has managed to kind of erase the sins or the sinning that he's done throughout his life. But actually, in order to actually get into heaven now, he needs to make a change and live a better life in order to become lighter than the feather and to be able to enter into heaven.
And the last thing I just wanted to say is it's good to pair quotations if you can. I mean, this is a novella that's about change. It's trying to inspire people, tell people that they can change. So you could pair this up with the simile from the start, hard and sharp as flint, which the narrator describes Scrooge as being, with I am light as a feather. And there's obvious contrast between the hardness and the sharpness, and possibly the weight as well of the flint, and then the softness and the gentleness of the image of a feather. I mean, we make pillows out of feathers, we did then, pillows, duvets, things like that, soft things. So again, it's just shown that this he thinks that his personality has changed because he's the one giving the simile, and he sees himself now to be a much softer person and somebody a lot more comforting and welcoming to other people.